Nah. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Joining us is our co-host and fellow traveler, Dan, the Dan Noodles Man, the Dave Arneson of Wargaming. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. David Lynch is dead.
That's good. David Lynch has passed away. For those who didn't hear, Roger McGowan's house and home office burnt down in the LA fires. He's okay. His family's okay. They're living in a hotel. It's going to be a huge trial for them to recover from this.
So everything was lost, man.
Yeah, well, I don't know what they did. They have an office that wasn't there. I have no idea. Nobody really has any details that I've talked to. But and Bob Uecker passed away. I went out of my way to listen to the last game that Bob Uecker called this last playoff season for the Brewers. So I've seen these.
What?
But who? What? Bob Uecker?
No. I wonder how many originals Roger lost, man.
Oh yeah, I have no idea. He might have had everything in his home. I have no idea. They may have an office somewhere. It wouldn't shock me if they did, and maybe some of that stuff's there. But who knows? Who knows? For those who don't know, GMT charged yesterday for a giant pile of things. I didn't get hit this hard, but I got hit almost this hard by Multi-Man when they charged me for Forgotten Battles, which hopefully will be here tomorrow. I will pray to the post office gods to make sure that happens.
But hold on, Mike. You got charged that much because you bought that much worth of stuff.
Well, yeah, but they put like 13 items on that charge cycle.
Got it. Yeah.
Also, I believe there was a hiccup with the errata counter sheet again, the newest errata counter sheet, where the weight was being calculated wrong, and everybody got hit for like $8 for shipping, and that wasn't supposed to happen. There's a message on this on GMT's website. Go look at that if you got hit with it. I don't know if I got hit with it or not, but because I would never have noticed, given that I had two games plus the counter sheet plus the other counter sheet, the World at War supplemental counter sheet. Actually, that's what it sounded like as well. I don't know I've heard people say studio, but everything I've seen Roger say is his home office, but they may be the same thing. I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, excellent. Yeah, I got charged too. It's in the post. I appear to have two packages coming from Multi-Man. Did they ship the two copies separately? That would be asinine if they did, but they were not ordered at separate times. It was all on the same order, so I have no idea. Anyway, I wanted to talk because Dan has kind of floated this idea, and I've floated this idea about designing games, about us designing games, right? Me and Dan and everybody that's watching here tonight. Have you had that designer? Right? David Thompson doesn't count. He's a special case. He designs a game on the can in the morning.
Seriously though.
But I keep coming back to certain game design ideas, and it never seems to really go anywhere. And the one time that it did, nobody was interested. So
yeah, but did you pitch it to anybody?
I put it out on the internet. Nobody cared. So, I've got multiple things in the pipeline. I keep coming back to two things that I've repeatedly every couple of years will get back to, and sometimes I will recycle old material, and sometimes I'll start completely from scratch. Those two things are a strategic level World War II game, because I like those kinds of games. And a big, sprawling 80s style fantasy RPG. So,
you know what? I think the RPG would be easier because you have more license.
There's a lot more writing involved.
Yeah, well,
Well, a fantasy. I could do a fantasy war game, right? It would be less writing, although it's still, using something like, say, Burning Banners as an example of a recently released fantasy war game, which there's not that many of, that has been well received. There's also the recent reprint of Divine Right, of course. There's a lot of like world building and stuff that's done in those games. It's not necessarily trivial to design something like that just because it's not based on a historical situation.
So, Gary, what kind of, you said a war game, fantasy war game. Mm-hmm. How fantasy are you gonna go?
Like traditional fantasy role-playing game with dwarves and elves and magic swords and demons and shit like that.
Not something like Mark Walker's like Weird War 3 type thing, eh?
I'm not really interested in genre blending in that way. There's been a number of efforts along those lines, like Weird War 2, and there was a GURPS product that was like something similar to that, Octung Cthulhu from whoever does that. And I'm just not super into the genre bending. I don't have like an urge, like an itch to do a game like that. You know,
there's a game by Lock and Load Publishing.
You can, Jeff Beeler. I just haven't done that.
A game by Lock and Load Publishing. I have it, but I'm afraid of getting up, moving a box, the whole goddamn place gonna just fall apart.
Oh, I don't know. Look, that looks pretty sturdy to me. I would laugh if he is currently crushed by the falling bookshelf. This is true, but I don't. That's a down the line question. It doesn't matter if you need to get art if there's no game to get art for, right? And everybody, hit the like button. Thank you, Danny. Much appreciated. Yeah, this is a great question. And this is part of it, right? Is I don't end up focusing on stuff like game design, and then I ended up drifting away from it, and then I lost my place, right? Nuclear Winter 68. So that sounds like some kind of post-apocalypse science fiction thing to me.
Himmler went into hiding in 45, mm-hmm. and came out whatever, and they World War II. There was a nuclear Holocaust type thing.
Okay.
So there's the Himmler faction and let's say the NATO faction, right?
Okay.
But there's also the people who lived through the Holocaust.
Right. So it's like a post-apocalypse type of deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a simple game. I like it.
A lot of people like that kind of theme, dystopian themes or post-apocalyptic stuff.
There can't be too much weird stuff happening too many times over, man.
Oh, you should definitely not play Gamma World, Dan.
Well, I guess too much is too much.
Yeah. There are two different Harn RPGs right now. There's the Harn Master from Columbia Games, which I like. And there's a brand new edition of Harn Master that's recently been released by Celestia Publications, which I bought. I haven't got the physical book yet. I've glanced at the PDF. It looks intriguing. It's definitely different from the previous iterations of that system. I think so. I think Burning Banners could draw in people that wouldn't necessarily be interested. It's not that big of a step to move from something like War of the Ring, for example, to Burning Banners, right? Unless the only thing attractive about War of the Ring to you is the fact that it's a Tolkien Middle-earth thing, right? Which is certainly possible for that audience.
I was telling you before that Carl asked me to come up with an idea to design a game.
Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult. I'm having a really hard time.
Well, you got to just jot down ideas. You're on the can, just keep a little notepad by the can or by the nightstand. Just jot down ideas, I am nowhere near 35,000 words on any friggin' thing. So, there are a lot of indie RPGs, a lot of which do have pretty minimal presentation standards, right? We're talking basic trade paperback size books with of varying thicknesses, right? Some of them are quite thin, some of them are several hundred pages, with not necessarily an enormous amount of art. So,
Danny Seckery idea.
This thing
on Bears.
Wasn't there a who was it? I might have been Herman actually that did a game about Nazi UFOs over Antarctica or something like that.
Schwabenland.
Neues Schwabenland, yeah.
Yeah, that was Plain Battle Publishing.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I happen to know that one of these has been pitched to Columbia Games, just not by me. So.
Oh my God. Albert Zimmerit. Albrecht.
Tante e Putes? 90s gritty Montreal. Oh, is that an actual product? Okay. There's a lot of really specialized stuff in RPG. It's not all just D&D style fantasy and maybe Call of Cthulhu and Traveler. So there's a lot out there. You got to kind of find people to play it with, but that's another question. The point of the national, for anybody that doesn't know this acronym, it's one of the world's most awkward acronyms. It's the National Novel Writing Month, which is in November, and there's like an organization that puts it on. And the objective is to not to write the next War and Peace. The objective is to actually write a novel, right? If you get to your 50,000 words or whatever it is, that is the goal, right? You don't have to be Proust to. Did Proust even write novels? I have no idea. But it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. The point is to do it, and then the next one will be better, right?
Maybe.
So, but yeah, I mean, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, right? A Frank Chadwick design, actually. It's based on I believe, a comic book or graphic novels or something like that. I actually don't have. It's one of the GDW RPGs that I don't have. It might actually be the only one of their RPGs that I don't have. And I forgot where I was going with that. It was just a little too cavalier to me, if you will, from the theme. I'm just like, I don't know. It's like the future, a post-apocalyptic future with Cadillacs and dinosaurs. I don't get that, which isn't to say it's bad, and that maybe a couple of people enjoyed it. I'm guessing that's the case. So Captain Nolan confirms that Proust did write novels. Yes.
Frank Chadwick was a big RPG guy?
Oh, Frank did a number of things. Yeah. Almost every RPG that, if not every RPG that GDW did, Frank had a hand in it somewhere, and in some cases, he was the main guy. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was one of them. I'm not sure what the credits look like on 2300 AD offhand. I think he had a hand in Dark Conspiracy, although Lester Smith was the main designer on that. But Traveler of the New Era was mainly Frank. So yeah, Frank has had a hand in a lot of different things.
You know what? I forget. What war game? Isn't he working on a war game right now?
Yeah, he's working on the Frank Chadwick's ETO thing.
Right.
So
why is that? That's been in the works a hell of a long time.
It has been, but it's also a gigantic project, so it's not really a shock. I mean, I was telling somebody yesterday, I forget who it was, that when I play tested Cross-Channel Attack, the Normandy OCS game, that's like 7 years ago now, man. So that thing's been in the works for that long, and we weren't it was an early playtest, but it wasn't like we weren't necessarily the first people to see it. So it takes a long time to do this stuff, sometimes at least, unless you're David Thompson or Greg Smith or one of the other highly prolific designers floating around out there, or Herman, right, is another example. Where you could just knock out a game, a couple games a year, and they will actually be good.
Look at the VD there. I don't know if his name is Vlad Drac or venereal disease.
There you go. 51st state for the Canadian coin game.
That's not bad. But I don't know diddly about coin. But
there are cool topics floating around out there that not many war games have been done on. Off the top of my head, there's only one game. There are other games where it's in the game, but there's only one game that I'm aware of that features explicitly the Schelt campaign from 1944, a Canadian forward topic too, Dan. It's Brian Train's Schelt campaign game that was, I think, originally printed in very small numbers or possibly self-published by Brian, and then Hollandspiel redid it. You could still get it there. Lee Grant, thanks so much. Much appreciated. Uh,
and blow, huh? You know
I
that
guess so.
that's what Albrecht Zimmerit. Is it Zimmerit or Zimmerman? That's exactly what he was talking about.
Zimmerit? I don't know.
Oil and oligarchs.
Oh, you could easily do a game on that. That New World Order game, I think that's what it's called. Maybe it's just World Order. From Hegemonic Project Games, it's their follow-up to Hegemony. That looks pretty interesting, too. I backed that on Kickstarter.
You know, you could coin anything, man.
Oh, yeah. Here's another Canada-forward topic here, Dan. The Canadian Civil War. SPI tackled this in the mid to late 70s. I don't remember exactly when this came out. But it could have been in 80 or 81, I suppose, but this is true, actually, but there's not much, right? And maybe it's that it's not an American topic. The Canadians were up there with no bullets because Monty took all the bullets away from them. But it's a pretty interesting topic, and it's featured in what turned me onto it was actually OCS Beyond the Rhine, because you fight it. It's OCS, so I mean you're kind of way zoomed out, but you fight it out in Beyond the Rhine. So, and there's some interesting stuff going on up there.
Hey, Gary, I had an existential moment.
Did you?
Yeah, I was at work and I was playing a war game. Hey, that's the type of work I do. Anyways, and I'm playing
Life is
the
tough.
Battle of 1812 Worthington. Dave sent me the game. Thank you very much. And it's a solo game, and I just took it for granted that I was the British, and I was going to defend against the Americans, but it's the other way around. And I had a hard time playing it with that idea.
Huh. Well, play it again.
The Americans have to take over Canada. They got to beat the Brits. That's what it's about.
Right. They can't just be satisfied with just seizing Montreal.
Yeah,
as they did historically.
I wasn't, and now I understand why people like, let's say Mark Herman, he'll never play the Germans in a war game. Now I understand. It's an innate feeling, man. I don't want the Americans to take over Canada. What are you, crazy?
So Jason W. is the designer of the fairly soonly upcoming Epipoli from GMT, which is the first of the Ancients sequence of Levian campaign games. And he brings up an excellent point, is that it really helps to have support from some other people. Like the idea that some people have anyway, of this lone person slaving away in a basement for years at a time, and nobody ever sees it until it's done, and then it's that's almost never does that actually happen. It really does help to have other people to talk to about it, to give you feedback, to help you play test, all that stuff. Because one person's not going to think of it all. So, I've got this actually. It's a very imposing product. I've gotten into it very little because of the UI is not great. Let's put it that way.
Hey,
it's also covering a whole lot more than just a Shelp campaign. I'll point that out.
Wild West games, not very popular,
huh? Historically, not really. I mean, you've had a couple of examples. Gilbert Collins did a whole video about Western games, actually. And he pointed out several. Probably the best known one in wargaming circles is probably Avalon Hill's Gunslinger, which I never owned or played personally. It looked fun, but it's basically just, a Western shootout game. It's as a tactical board game.
Which reviewer did you mention?
Gilbert Collins.
Oh, Gilbert Collins.
Yeah. And I think Gilbert has designed a Western game as well. So, RPG-wise, there was Boot Hill, of course, which is very early. It's like 1975. It's like the fourth RPG ever released. The only ones that beat it would be D&D, Empire of the Petal Throne, maybe, and Tunnels and Trolls, maybe. Aces and Eights from the Hackmaster people is kind of the current thing for like a straight Western RPG. So they're out there, but it's never been tremendously popular. But Westerns are kind of out of fashion, right? They've been out of fashion for a while. People get interested. Some Western movie will come out, and it'll be good, and people will watch it and like it, and there'll be a little bit of a surge. But it's not going to be the 50s anymore, where it's, every movie is a Western. Yeah. Like 80% of the movies that came out this year were Westerns, right? Or whatever. I'm pulling that number from my rear, but You know what I'm
Did you
saying? There were a lot of westerns. Just like superhero movies now. There's tons of superhero movies.
did you see what is it? The Ballad of Buster Scruggs?
I have not seen the entire movie. I've seen clips of it. I actually would like to see it. I'd like to.
I think there's 4 different separate acts or something.
Yeah, it's like a sketch type of format. Yeah, something like that.
Kilroy's in the house.
Kilroy was here, is here,
Stuka
and
Joe.
Stuart is here as well. Deadlands, yeah. Well, Deadlands is sort of a Wild West with supernatural elements too. Alternate history Wild West with supernatural elements. Let me put it that way. That is.
Was there a movie?
Not based on the RPG. I can tell you that. They're
Bone Tomahawk or something like that.
I didn't see that. I've seen clips of that. That looks like a straight Western to me.
And Kurt Russell was in this movie.
Yeah.
I forget.
That's Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a straight Western. There's people that live in caves.
Why does that not make it a straight Western?
Because they're cannibals, I think.
Why does that not make it a straight Western? I mean, those are unusual tropes to include in a Western, okay, but so what? I mean, it's still it's still a Western. If there's like a supernatural element, I don't know if there is or not.
Yes,
Maybe
there is. Yes, there is.
Okay, well, that's different. Then it's a Western fantasy horror type of deal. There's been a number of like horror and science fiction Western films. Cowboys versus Aliens would be the one that I could think of, but that was I didn't see it, but it did not make a lot of money. Let me put it that way.
The last good Western, Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I saw that, and The Hateful Eight. But honestly, I bailed on The Hateful Eight after about half an hour. I just didn't. I wasn't that interested, which I'm not really sure why.
I haven't even seen it.
It's on net. Pretty sure it's on Netflix. Yellowstone is it?
Yes, it is. I agree with it.
Is it? But it's like modern.
Yeah, well, it's wicked cowboy.
It's pretend cowboys.
Cowboy.
Yeah, it's this is not a criticism of Yellowstone, which is supposed to be very good. And I know it feels like a Western, but it's modern, so I don't really think it is. Now there's a bunch of prequels to it, and those are legit Westerns. So
yeah, it is a soap opera.
True Grit. I need to see this True Grit.
I haven't seen that one. I've seen the one with John Wayne.
I haven't seen either one actually. I should watch both of them. I'm not that big of a Western guy. I'll get in the mood for a Western from time to time, and there's some Westerns that I think are just amazing movies.
Forgiven.
Unforgiven's good. I thought I felt the end was very deflating, to be honest about it. There's like all this buildup, and then at the very end, apologies to anybody who hasn't seen the movie, and then Clint Eastwood just goes in there and murders everybody. It's like not even a contest. So it's the ending felt weird to me. It's well acted, it's well shot. Everything else about the movie is fantastic. But I felt like the ending kept it from being an all-time great Western, which I know a lot of people think that it is. My favorite Western is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Well, Jesus. Okay, I thought we were talking about like recent type Westerns other than True Grit. Yeah, of course.
There was that Kevin Costner project that fell on its face too in the last year or so. That he left Yellowstone to go do, I believe.
Well, as long as
Tombstone's a terrific movie, actually. Although it really just should have been called The Adventures of Doc Holliday. Because Val Kilmer completely steals the entire film. So,
I just watched Duck You Sucker with who was that actor who was with Marlon Brando in The Wild One? It was the antagonist.
Dennis Hopper?
Bruce Coburn?
James Coburn?
James Coburn.
Okay.
And he's in that movie with the guy who did The Illustrated Man.
Ray Bradbury?
No, the actor.
The actor. There was a movie of the Illustrated Man.
He also
I think there was. I've never
yes,
seen
there
it.
was. And he also was with not Clint Eastwood, Marlon Brando. I could have been a contender.
On the waterfront.
Yeah,
Carl
who was
Malden?
the guy in the cab? Huh?
Carl Malden?
No,
He was in all on the waterfront.
Rod Steiger. Thank you.
I did think that the remake of the recent the Magnificent Seven has been remade like half a dozen times. I did think that the most recent remake with Denzel Washington and Vincent D'Onofrio and some other people was pretty good. I thought Chris Pratt was a complete tool in it, but that's kind of the character he was playing too.
This is the remake of Magnificent.
Yeah, from 3 or 4 years ago, something
How
like
can
that.
you remake that? Who did the music?
Well, the originals, it's not Elmer Bernstein, I can tell you that.
Obviously.
And I think they might play the Elmer Bernstein music over the end credits, but other than that, you don't hear it in the movie, which is a really a foolish missed opportunity, if you ask me.
You can't remake a movie like that.
Well, yeah, you can. They did it. It was called The Magnificent Seven. It was originally the Seventh Samurai, right? So there is a long history of remaking various Akira Kurosawa projects as Americanized versions.
Is there a stretch? There's not a stretch. No, there's not that big of a stretch from Kurosawa's and Sam Peckinpah did that movie, Magnificent Seven?
No, definitely not. You're thinking of the Wild Bunch, probably. I forget who directed that. Elmer Bernstein did the music, so.
The Wild Bunch is pretty damn good, too.
It is. It's a very good movie. Sam Peckinpah was pretty good at that kind of thing. I'd absolutely agree with this. He's the best thing about he and the battle scene are the best thing about the movie. The battle scenes are genuinely amazing in that.
I haven't
Last Man Standing, yeah. Remake of Kurosawa's Yojimbo, if I'm not mistaken. I have not actually seen it.
Who's the protagonist in there?
In Last Man Standing, it's Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
So we started talking about movies. We're still nominally talking about designing games and like how you push through, right? The just the inertia that you have. You've got to like be disciplined enough to sit down and do it, like on the regular, right?
You know what? I'm actually lucky. Carl said he would do the hard work there, but in designing a game. But you know what? It would be a good stage of siege game, Seven Samurai.
Yeah, actually, you could totally do something like that. Yeah, this is true. Actually, Kurosawa was borrowing from Western stuff too. So, if you've ever seen Ron, for example, which is just a fantastic movie, it is King Lear.
Yeah, of course.
That's what it is. So, but it's a terrific movie. There's another Japanese movie not by Akira Kurosawa called Heaven and Earth, which is also really, I thought, pretty good.
I mean, the last scene in Ran, man, when he gets all the arrows.
This is a good question, actually, and you could also stipulate that perhaps the character in Pale Rider is that character as well, huh? But I mean, the films intentionally leave it ambiguous, so you can assume that they're not the same character, but they kind of feel like the same character, don't they?
It's very Yojimbo.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but
Sanjuro, Yojimbo, and wasn't there a trilogy of Lone Samurai movies by Kurosawa?
I mean, he did several samurai movies. There may have been, but we're here. Perfidious Albion's talking about the Sergio Leone classic trilogy of films with Clint Eastwood. Once Upon a Time in the West is worth watching too, by the way.
Fantastic.
So.
Fantastic. Once Upon a Time, the West is with Blue Eyes there.
Charles Bronson and Henry Fonda.
And what a great
and
movie.
Jackie Lamb was in it. Wow, what a look that guy had.
What a great movie.
So Yojimbo appears in Yojimbo Sanjuro and guests in a Zatoichi film.
Zatoichi.
Okay, I don't speak Japanese, so I have no idea. Last of the Mohicans is a fabulous film. Dances with Wolves is not bad. It's a bit preachy. Okay, that's cool. So, and then here's the film buff's answer. It's a whole Miyamoto trilogy, who was, of course, a famous samurai. So,
Musashi Miyamoto. Man, I've got so many
this is
samurai
part of a
movies.
series. There's 2 or 3 games in this series from Legion, actually. This is actually,
What is it? The Battle of the Fonts?
no, it's Adobe. Oh, it took me a second. No, there's a Battle of the Adobe Walls. It's like, the series is called like the Wars of the American West or something like that, or Battles of the American West. There's a couple of different things, 2 or 3 different games that have come out in that series. So, I'm just going to assume that Godzilla shows up at some point, because that would be awesome.
You got to watch the original. It's
Godzilla. I hear that the recent Japanese remake of Godzilla is excellent.
with Bryan Cranston.
No. That was not a Japanese made film. It was after that. That's an okay movie, but you see way too much of characters you don't like, played by actors you don't like, when what you really want to see is more of Godzilla. That is the downside of that film. It's okay. When you see Godzilla, it's kind of awesome. They do it really well. None of the character work was anything I was interested in that movie at all. And I've seen at least one of the sequels. And I didn't think that was particularly interesting either. They're not awful, but they're just kind of okay. Godzilla 1. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. This was on Netflix too, last I checked, which admittedly was a while ago.
You know what?
So,
There's a new Godzilla movie, for God's sake.
yeah, from like maybe 2023, something like that. Might be 2022. So there is a significant story. These are not really clones of one another. Okay, they are merely playing with the same trope set that has been done in the past, right? I think these are all fairly distinct, right? That we could point. This goes all the way back. This came up in the wake of the movie coming out. A lot of this goes back to Edgar Rice Burroughs, right? And John Carter of Mars. John Carter shows up, saves all the Martians. So
wait, I got to take my dog to go pee.
Oh boy, I got to handle this myself for a minute.
Let's go.
I saw the first. Aren't there 2 of these now, or maybe the other one's still coming out, or hasn't come out yet? I did see the first Godzilla versus Kong. It was fine, but it wasn't. It was just wasn't that great. I am pretty sure, John Stanley, that there is at least a game or 2 on San Jacinto. So, Danny Parker, thanks for stopping by. I liked the movie. Now, it does depart from the original, but it had to because they can't all run around naked the whole movie. I pretty much liked the movie. They had to make some concessions and changes to adapt it to film and all that other stuff, but I thought it was pretty good. And it didn't really do that badly, but it cost a lot of money to make. So that we will not be getting the proposed sequels. So, but yeah, I mean, I started working on 2 wargame projects. One of which was the one that I've talked about on the Monday show, which was the strategic level World War II game. Which again, I will get back to it. It's just that I kind of hit a wall on the mapping, and I needed to step back and make some decisions. I am completely prepared to believe that this will occur. So, yeah. So Shogun, the recent miniseries of Shogun did so well that they're making a season 2, and I'm not sure what that's being based on, but I believe there were sequels to the book as well. I thought there were, but maybe they're not like direct sequels, or maybe I'm just nuts. That's plausible too. This is possible too. I have started reading it, but I haven't got very far into it. I'm like 25 pages into it so far. I've got other things to read right now. About 90 pages from the end of this, and I'm trying to finish it. Hopefully tonight would be nice. D-List in 1 says John Carter was great, read all the books. So the later books are not as good, right? But there's reasons to think that maybe Edgar Rice Burroughs personally didn't write some of the later books, that perhaps his son John Coleman Burroughs did. But certainly the first 3 are, I think, worthwhile. Are they a little dated? Sure. But I reread them not around the time the movie came out, the first 3, and I'm like, that, it's dated. You got to just accept that. But I still liked them. I loved those books as a kid. The 4th, 5th, and 6th books are okay as well, and then like the last 2 or 3 books are not as good. Even though the best cover, I had they may have been Ballantine paperbacks back in the 70s or 80s or whatever the heck. It would have been 80s or 90s, I guess. Early 80s would be my guess. With the Michael Whelan covers, and the last book had the best cover. That's an amazing cover. It's one of my favorite book covers of all time. But the book sucked. So
is Charles Latour still in the house?
You got a tiny little tank you're painting there?
Yeah, this is a mini from what the hell's it called? Memoir 44, and he got me into it. And I think I spent $1,000 in 2 weeks on paints and stuff. Thanks, Charles. Just the fact I have not seen the miniseries. I would like to. I think it's on Hulu, if I'm not mistaken. I have never read the book. I've never been particularly driven to read the book, but I was interested sufficiently after the miniseries was supposed to be so good that I looked at it in the bookstore, and it's like $50 for a friggin' paperback. I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not buying this. I just spent $20 on a magazine. I couldn't believe it. I don't.
Yeah,
buy magazines.
It is in fact the Last Argument of Kings, which I'm almost at the end of. So it's like the end of the whole trilogy. So, boy, a lot of stuff happens in that book that didn't happen in the previous books. Ballantine got absorbed by a larger company, just like everybody else. Del Rey still exists as an imprint, but they were originally, I believe, under Ballantine, and now it's like Ballantine Doubleday or something like that. There's like 3 or 4 major publishing houses that own all the other publishing houses nowadays. It's just like everything else.
I'm gonna answer Charles, for God's sakes. Innocent, eh? There's one picture that when I took a screenshot, you had your one eye closed. That's why I call you now One-Eyed Jack. And I thought, how the hell does this guy paint little tiny stuff? Like, how can you see? Well, there's tricks and all that crap. And
do you have
$1,000? $1,000 by blue. And Danny, ASL is gonna have to wait.
Do you have Harbor Freight up by you, Dan?
Was that a game?
No, it's a hardware store.
No.
Okay. They have this like little modeler's device that like suction cups onto the table, and it's got like little magnifying glasses and little roach clips to hold the pieces, and so you could paint.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, you could probably. I'm sure you could get something like that on Amazon too. It's just that Harbor Freight has it for like $10.
Yeah, I was sold for $15. You know what? I used to tie Atlantic salmon flies, classic Atlantic salmon flies. So I've got all those gadgets and roach clips and all that. But I mean, how much weed can you smoke?
I understand that. So, and as Dan has mentioned, we'll be waiting on that.
Yeah, I'm poor and I'm spending money on paints.
So Frazetta was a singular talent, and I wouldn't go so far as to say that he was widely imitated, but he also widely inspired other artists too. So, and some of his stuff is really good. Some of his he did a lot of Conan stuff, but he also did at least a couple of John Carter pieces that were also really good. On the other hand, I do think one of the best John Carter pieces I've ever seen is the cover from the SPI game by Don Mates. That's a magnificent cover. Yeah, this is true. Lord knows I've done it. Stuka Joe, Joe might still be here. Hell, he's spent a bunch of money for me. So over the years, Yeah, there are multiple, as we've mentioned before, there are multiple channels that are like ASL how-to channels. So I'll be probably watching some of that in the coming months. Let me put it that way. Captain Nolan says Ballantyne was acquired by Random House in 1973, which was in turn acquired by Bertelsmann in 1998 and remains part of that company. So there you go. Well, this won't be a surprise, particularly. Yeah, so there you go. So he hasn't really spent that much after all.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
This is true too. Yeah. But I gotta take the time to go to the library. Now, there are also apps, however, and through the app you plug your library card in and connect to a library database. You could take ebooks out from the library without ever leaving your chair. The timing often doesn't seem to work out for me, but I actually I'm reading Last and First Men by Olaf Stapleton. It's a science fiction book written in 1930, and I have published at least in 1930, and I noticed a number of very interesting things about it. It's like a far-flung future history of mankind and the universe, right? It takes place over billions of years, literally. But in the first part of the book, he's dealing with the more or less contemporary world of his time. And there's some really interesting things in there about what he says Britain is like, and France is like, and Germany is like, and Russia is like. But he does correctly predict that there was going to be a big Russo-German war. So there's that. That's where the part of the book I'm in right now. But there's an app called Hoopla that you can also rent videos and stuff. I actually rented the movie. It was made into a film, like a kind of an art film type of deal, where it's just these images and music, and it's all narrated by Tilda Swinton. It's really good, but I'm not going to go pay for it. So I got it on Hoopla through the library. It's pretty great, actually.
But it reminds me of a Jacques Tati movie.
Who?
Jacques Tati is a French avant-garde director.
Okay.
Who did a movie, just him walking around, solid colors, and I don't even know if it was narrated, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I have to explain to anybody that I am, in fact, a Frank Frazetta fan.
Didn't he draw for heavy metal also?
Oh, he drew all over. He did work everywhere.
I think I've got a stack load of brand new heavy metals. And
no, the logo is not the Death Dealer, but it is intentionally reminiscent of the Death Dealer.
Anybody want to buy heavy metals?
You could probably get them electronically now, eh?
Well, yeah. Well, what do you? I like books. I like to feel stuff.
I get that. However, let's say I've subscribed to a bunch of book people on the book channel, and somebody was talking about I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, and these are the 2 books I'm bringing with me. And then I'm like, well, what happens if you're 3 days into your 7-day trip and you finish the books you have? You got to go find more books. I don't have to do that. They're all on my phone. I could just say, time to start the next one. Here we go.
How often does that happen?
It happens all the time. What are you talking about?
The movie Candy? With Marlon Brando, Ringo Starr, and God, I was 12 years old. I used to have dreams about that chick.
There you go. The Last Canadian. Dan, you got to run this book down.
The Last Canadian. Who wrote it?
Well, I'm pretty sure Clark is talking about the latter parts of the book. I'm maybe 10% of the way through the book right now. I've never been a particularly big Boris Vallejo fan, to be honest. I mean, he's certainly a talented artist. There's no doubt about that. Some of his stuff tends to come off a little on the creepy side, to be honest.
Look at Albrecht's comment. Albrecht. I just got to say it, Albrecht.
Which one? Which one? Yeah, just turn on CNN. For those who didn't hear, Bob Uecker, legendary broadcaster, comedian, and less legendary Major League Baseball player, passed away today or yesterday. And he just had broadcast his last game in the recent Major League Baseball playoffs. And David Lynch also passed away. They're saying emphysema, but I don't know what the details are.
Yeah, the guy smoked like an animal.
So, yeah, that's true. Mr. Baseball. So I'm from Cleveland, okay? And there's a movie called Major League that everybody in Cleveland feels a tremendous nostalgic attachment to. And Bob Uecker's in the movie. And in the sequels, which are not good and are not worth your time. But the original Major League is a fun sports movie. Mr. Mark Herman is here.
Yeah, let's stop making fun of Mark, eh? He's in the house.
Yeah, Mark, the Yankees really let me down. I got to tell you, since we mentioned baseball. In their recent playoff appearance. They smoked Cleveland, and then they just collapse in the next series.
Obviously,
so
Mark is
if they're going to kick the Cleveland team around, they might as well at least win the thing.
Mark is a Yankees fan, right?
Yeah, well, Mark's from New York, so of course.
I'm close to Montreal. You think I'm a Montreal Canadian fan? They could kiss my bippy, man.
There is I can't speak to this, actually. Does hockey sort of have both do Canadians have both the nostalgia and the history and the affection all together for hockey like Americans used to for baseball?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because I am not Canadian.
In my time, absolutely. I mean, I used to be a Habs fan, but now I want the Nordiques back. But there's some son of a beast who doesn't want to let us get that franchise.
So that's supposed to be that looks intriguing. Let me put it that way. Since I do find brutalist architecture interesting. Remember, folks, for not too terribly long, I thought I was going to end up being an architect. So like Mr. Brady, I guess. Well, the Mets just got there, right? The Yankees have been playing in New York City since like 1890 or whatever it is. It might predate that. The Mets just got there right after the Dodgers left. So they haven't had as much time to develop that affection. I mean, it's still been 70 years, but you know, I'm old, so what can I say?
Hey, Ardy, let's bring the Moose song back.
The Moose, just send me the freaking clip or send me the audio and I'll take care of it.
The original one.
Or whatever. Send me whatever you got. That's actually kind of cool. I find that I have a hard time watching old TV shows, to be honest. I haven't tried this, and there are exceptions. Mission Impossible is one, or like Star Trek. That doesn't even count.
Well, Star Trek is Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of its own thing, right?
It's like
that doesn't count as old TV.
No, it doesn't count.
I tried to watch the Carol Burnett show. Some streaming platform has the Carol Burnett show, and we watched like the first episode, and I'm like, wow. Carol Burnett was funny, and there was a lot of funny stuff that happened on this show, but it wasn't in this episode. So you gotta sit through it. Remember, they had like they like broadcast every week. They had like 50 shows a year.
Yeah, but don't watch it in sequence, man. Pick and choose Carol Burnett because sometimes, because of Harvey Korman and the other guy, what's his face,
Tim Conway. Oh, yeah. I think it was Tim Conway that literally, it's on YouTube. There's a very famous clip of Tim Conway being so funny that nobody else on the stage is keeping it together.
Nobody.
And that is always the most hilarious thing.
That's what. But he always does that.
Well, he was really funny. That's why.
Wasn't he Canadian?
I don't know. Maybe. You never know when somebody might be a secret Canadian. Ooh, Dan. There's your game idea. Secret Canadian.
Okay, that's a good title, but I don't have the...
Look up the Werewolf game on YouTube. And it's basically that.
Oh, no, I don't like those werewolf games, man.
No. Like the social werewolf game that you can play with like 50 people. Well, yeah. just watch that enough to see how it works. That's except that you're the secret Canadian instead of the werewolf.
Mo's in the house. Mo
from Mo's Game Table. Mo, thanks for stopping by.
That's a nice title. Their secret pancality, but like
I don't know how marketable it is, though. Dan is exceptionally well known here in the wargaming hobby.
No. Pancaldi doesn't mean anything except
Maybe not. Well, he did get Steve Hackett to do an intro for his show, so there's that. And lots of people are from Ohio. Harlan Ellison was from Ohio. Roger Zelazny was from Ohio. Were you speaking?
I'm still trying to get Al Stewart.
Hey, I'm delighted to talk to Al Stewart.
I mean, I can't get through, man.
Secret Moose. Secret Moose is another. Maybe that's the first expansion. Secret Moose.
Herman could make something with that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if you're not, you're not supposed to inhale that stuff. Let me put it that way. You could still get face cancer from it, though. There you go.
On, man, with this face.
There you go. I was technically born in Fairview Park, but you know what I'm saying. So, Due South, Perfidious Albion. I remember that. I never watched that. Trying to think of other old TV shows. You can get me to watch a few episodes of Rat Patrol. I liked that as a kid.
Yes. Combat. A few episodes of that.
I never watched Combat.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
So,
what about Vic Morrow? Not Vic Morrow.
That's Combat.
Yeah, I'm thinking of. Okay, there was a. That's it. Blank.
But like 20 years ago, Kojak. Oh yeah, somebody mentioned that up thread. Somebody's streaming that now. Rockford Files is a good show. Like 20 years ago, before this is all over the place now, where you'll have like, what's a show that let's say House of the Dragon. There's probably 100 House of the Dragon podcasts. Okay, the first time, well, like a lot of people started hearing about like doing a podcast about some specific piece of entertainment, it was the Rockford Files. Rockford Files was a good show.
Hold on, Mark just opined.
Mark says Combat is the best World War II show ever. I just need to watch an episode or two.
Well, Mark, do you the
Black Sheep Squadron? I liked Black Sheep Squadron as a kid too.
The show? Would you consider a Band of Brothers a show, or no? It's a series.
It's on TV. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, something like Combat is hard to like hold together a comparison with something like Band of Brothers, because in Band of Brothers you have 6 or 8 episodes or whatever it is, or 10, where it's one contiguous story told episodically, right? Whereas in a show like Combat, every episode is pretty much its own standalone deal, right? And it could go on for 30 years like the Rifleman did. So,
there's also the Wild Wild West.
If that came out today and it was a big hit, they would now be working on season 2. I'm not even making that up.
Whatever happened to Memphis Belle there, or B-17?
That's Memphis Belle. That's the movie you're thinking of. That's a good movie.
The series there by Tom Hanks and Spielberg.
Oh, you're talking what is that called? Masters of the Air.
The Lancaster.
I haven't seen that because I don't have Apple TV at the moment. I'll eventually have to get it, but
so it's out then.
Yes, it is out. Tour of Duty. I remember Tour of Duty being pretty good.
What year was that?
That was much later, however. Of course, MASH. Well, I mean, some episodes are better than others, but there's a lot of MASH that's really good. So I am a big fan of this very, very flawed film that was just hosed by Hollywood. They threw the director out. John McTiernan got booted like halfway through production. It sat on a shelf for years. The 13th Warrior. It's based on a book by Michael Crichton, which is like. So there's this historical guy who wrote stuff down that when we have what he wrote, named Ibn Fadlan, all right? And he meets these Northmen, like, in the Volga River basin, and he, like, writes down about their customs and stuff like this. This is a completely historical document. What Crichton does in Eaters of the Dead, which is actually pretty clever, is he ties that into what could plausibly be like a historical basis for Beowulf. Ibn Fadlan in the movie, played by Antonio Banderas, who's very good in it. It's a very well shot movie, well cast movie. The action's good. It's just the editing is super duper choppy. William Aarons, thanks so much, much appreciated. First Gaming Con. I hear this is a good event. Say hi to Art Lupinacci for me. He'll probably be there.
Art Lupinacci. Lupinacci. It rolls right off the tongue. Lupinacci.
So, that's awesome. I'm not that big of a fan of Michael Crichton, but I did like Eaters of the Dead a lot. So it's like Ibn Fadlan gets exiled from Baghdad because he's an asshole, and like they shot all that stuff, and none of it's in the movie. And he like meets up with these Vikings, and then he is picked by the Vikings to travel with them because the old hag has cast the bones, and she says that 13 men have to go, but one of them can't be a Northman, and the only other not Northman in the camp is Omar Sharif, who's like 95 years old. So he's got to go back up to the north and fight these cavemen type dudes.
It's historical.
It's inspired by history.
It sounds like Harry Potter.
Well, so the first part I told you, where Ibn Fadlan gets kicked out of Baghdad because he's out of favor and meets with these Vikings and writes a bunch of stuff down about their customs and how they bury people and stuff like that's legit. That's where the historical part ends.
Hold on, Ardy. Hold on. You're telling me a Viking went to Baghdad?
Oh, yeah, Vikings were all over the place. But this was not like in Baghdad. This is, like I said, this is like on the Volga or something like that. So, it's a fun movie. It has an absolutely amazing soundtrack. And I like it a lot. But the editing in it is horrific.
Is it choppy like the cameras?
No. It's not like the fast camera stuff. It's just like if you've seen Kingdom of Heaven, it's like that. The movie as cut doesn't make any sense. It's just there was bad blood between Michael Crichton and John McTiernan, and at that particular time, Michael Crichton, who coming high off of Jurassic Park, had more power than John McTiernan, so he had John McTiernan kicked out and got rid of a bunch of his footage. So, and then there was some kind of political fight.
Look, Meandering Mike. They formed the Varangian Guard.
Yeah, the Varangian Guard. That was like the Byzantine
what year
Imperial
was this?
Guard, right? Really. But yeah, no, they were Northmen. The Vikings went all over the place.
What year was this? 14 something?
Oh no, this is like 500, 600, 700, 800, maybe 700, 800, 900. That type of time frame. Viking, like the Viking era, where they like start going on raids and stuff, I think is like said to have started in like 792 with the raid on Lindisfarne, or 988. Well, I don't know when the movie is like officially set, but yeah, it's a movie. It totally needs a director's cut. Maybe now we will get a director's cut of the David Lynch Dune film because more footage exists for that.
You know what I don't like about the David Lynch Dune film? The bloody music. Even though it was Eno and Toto, no work, no good.
I really like the Brian Eno prophecy theme. I like the Toto part of the soundtrack, and everything else in the movie is Toto. I like the Toto part less, but it has grown on me over the years. I still actually listen to it sometimes. I was at one point really into movie soundtracks.
Oh, I am big time.
So, yes, but there's Vikings all over the place, starting in like the late 8th century. So,
bloody hell! I gotta learn about these Varangians.
There's a super interesting. You're going to end up reading some interesting stuff if you read about the Varangians. I think Harold Hardrada was in the Varangian Guard at one point.
Apocalypto. I haven't seen that movie because I think it scares the shit out of me.
It's a really intense movie.
Yeah.
Because it's literally filmed in Mayan, right? So I forget whether there are subtitles or not, but this is actually I do like this about Mel Gibson as a filmmaker, is that he has made films like in the actual languages. That's why I went to see The Passion of the Christ. It's literally shot in Latin and Aramaic. How awesome is that? That does have subtitles.
He's an incredible director, man. Seriously.
So, but Apocalypto is really intense and a really fascinating film to watch. It is worth your time.
How gratuitous is it?
It's pretty bloody. I mean, it is a Mel Gibson movie. He's made a lot of pretty bloody movies. His Passion of the Christ has been described by some as "quote unquote" torture porn.
But I mean, Harvey Keitel didn't work for me in there, man.
That's The Last Temptation of Christ by Martin Scorsese, which I have also seen, and which is also a good movie. It feels so American, though, with these. There's a lot of people in there like Willem Dafoe and Harvey Keitel and guys with like regional American accents, and that kind of doesn't work for me. But thematically, I thought it was a very interesting film. So I really want to see the new Nosferatu.
My God.
With Willem Dafoe.
I hope you're right, Captain Nolan.
This looks intense.
Well, I hope so.
So it can't be worse than the Klaus Kinski Nosferatu that was made in the 70s or early 80s. Mike Berticelli's in the house. Somebody said, I can't find anything. So... it looks very interesting. I'm often just as happy to just watch this stuff at home.
Yeah.
So I've got very good stereo headphones and a big monitor, and I can sit right here and clip counters and watch a nice movie like that. So I'm more likely to not to see it then.
Klaus Kinski. He did an Nosferatu, eh?
Yeah, in the 70s. I didn't like it, but I recognize when I say this that because I think this is true, it will be a good thing for Klaus Kinski as an actor. There's something deeply off-putting about the man.
He's bipolar, man. For God's sake.
Well, he's also dead.
Yeah.
So. But no, a really good actor. Impossible to work with. I think he got in a gunfight on a set once.
Who's the Wim Wenders?
Wim Wenders?
Yeah, wasn't he the director who?
I don't think so.
Who did Fitzgeraldo?
I have no idea. Somebody will know though.
Yeah.
So we are over time. So let's wrap it up here, folks. So for those of you who are attending the Armchair Dragoons digital convention, Dan and I will be doing a convention exclusive show. You have to be in the convention to get a link. Attendance at the convention is the grand sum of $4, however. So that'll be exclusive to the convention, but then we'll broadcast it. I'll release the video about a week later. And we will have some special guests on there, including several special guests. I haven't read the actual emails that I've received yet. I like, okay, Brant has got back to me. Here is the thing. I will read this later. I haven't actually read. Tim Denchimo ought to be there. I forget who else was mentioned.
Werner Herzog.
Yeah. Oh, he's an interesting fellow, isn't he?
Hey man, him and the Klaus Kinski, you should see some stuff. Bloody hell! And
what?
I didn't put that together. Klaus Kinski being a war veteran. Bloody hell, man! Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's
take it back, but cripe.
Yeah. So I saw a picture of Oliver Reed after he was after he had just gotten in a bar fight and he thought his career was over because he got his face cut open with a bottle and his face is all messed up. And it turned out to have been a good thing for him in the long run as an actor.
Man. All righty, man.
So, all right. That was Dynasty, William Aarons, I think. Maybe Dallas did it too. I don't know. Anyway, so folks, we will be on at 8 p.m. on Saturday night for the special show. Otherwise, we will be back next Thursday. Everybody have a great rest of the night. Is that a tinned fish of some kind, Dan?